Alrighty, so today we're gonna finish up with the review of match day number 4, looking at these last 6 games. And just a full disclaimer, most likely this video will not be uploaded until late tonight and even into early morning tomorrow, because for whatever reason, despite the fact that my internet speed is pretty good right now, for whatever reason, it's taking longer than usual to upload it onto YouTube. I don't know if this is on my internet end or on the YouTube end, but yeah, I mean, these videos are taking longer than expected to upload. And like I said, most likely this video will not be uploaded until tomorrow morning. But that being said, in terms of this last 6 games, well, one thing I want to say is that I would have never guessed that I've seen a day where both of my team would be on the complete opposite end in terms of the standings, which is one of my team being at the top of the standing in terms of the Western Conference, and one of my other team on the bottom of the Western Conference. And let's talk about the team that is currently at the bottom of the Western Conference team. That is one of my team. And that, of course, is the San Jose Earthquakes versus Sporting KC. So coming into this game, I knew the Quakes were going to lose. I mean, it's been a long time since the Quakes were able to win against Sporting KC. I even said that, congratulations to Sporting KC fans that you get an automatic 3 points in this, and you can finally get your first win and don't have to wait 10 games like last season. And that's exactly what happened. Though I will say this, and this might be crazy to say if you didn't watch this game, the Quakes were the better team in this game. And I think the Quakes were very unlucky to not get anything out of this game. And I would also say that this was probably the best game that the San Jose Earthquakes have played in the whole season. And yet they're still on the losing end. Now, in the first half, Espinoza would put it wide from close range, and for once, it was a decent start for the Quakes on the road. I mean, it felt like it's one in Blue Moon, because the Quakes always tends to start off slow, especially under Luchi Gonzalez. And they were rewarded by that good start by getting the opening goal of this game, as Victor Costa would score from Espinoza to make it 1-0 in favor of the Quakes. It came off of a set piece, and it came off of a corner, which it feels like that's been an eternity since I've seen the Quakes are able to score from a corner. But that being said, the lead didn't last long, because 6 minutes later, Danny Rosero would score from Rodriguez to tie the game up at one apiece. And I mean, wrote set piece given, set piece taken. Because while it was great that the Quakes were able to score on a set piece, they were back to their old way of being bad in terms of defending set pieces. And here, I mean, Rosario just completely unmarked there, just inexcusable set piece defending there from the Quakes. But there was no doubt that after this, Sporting KC have woke up, and it feels like they have controlled the possession and looked for the lead, and it looks like the momentum was with them, and that's exactly what they got just 12 minutes later, as in the 29th minute, Alan Polito would score from Russell to make it 2-1 in favor of Sporting KC. So, yeah, you know that guy called Alan Polito, and how he's like the most lethal attacker in this Sporting KC team? Yeah, maybe someone needs to think about marking him in the box, because the fact that he was completely unmarked in the box, just to show you how bad the defense has been this season for the Quakes, and really for the past half a decade or so forth. Jude did look to respond, but he puts it high in the 30th minute before Ibowasi would puts it high on the volley. And then or in the 36th minute, Milia would deny Espinoza on the free kick. And I thought it was a good response for the Quakes. And again, this is a game that, as I said, there was some things that the Quakes were doing that were very un-Quakes like on the road, which is respond on the road despite being down. Because usually when I see the team give up goals, and especially give up quick goals like that, especially after take the lead, they would easily just fold. But give credit to them, they didn't fold in this game. They were keeping it tight and at least get some opportunity to equalize. But we do head to halftime with Sporting KC leading 2-1. In the second half, Melia would deny Pellegrino as he was in on goal here. So Pellegrino, his weight in terms of his first career goal for the Quakes, continue. And then Melia would deny Ibobasi, but he did give up a rebound and was a little fortunate that he was not punished because of that. Again, the Quakes has had some moments of getting the equalizer, but the question is, can they capitalize their chance? Yes, Melia at time has been bailed out this Sporting KC back line that wasn't really that good in this game, but this is where the Quakes needs to capitalize on their opportunity, because on the other end, Sharawi would puts it high from long range, and then you would puts it wide from long range as well in the 65th minute. And up to this point, the Quakes actually still control the possession. It was kind of surprised seeing Peter Remise and Sporting KC decided to kind of just drop off their lines and kind of kind of defend for this 2-1 lead, especially at home too. You usually do not see that happen with a Peter Vermees team. And in the 82nd minute, it looked like the Quakes got the equalizer as Rodriguez puts it into the back net. It looks like, if the attackers ain't scoring for the Quakes, might as well be the defender. But unfortunately, the goal did not count because there was a handball there. I think it was Costa, the one that handballed it, and it was. I mean, when you look on the replay, it definitely looked like it hit his hand. So yeah, the goal was chopped off. It was still 2-1 in favor of Sporting KC, but that has to be a huge wake up call for Sporting KC because they know that they can't just hang on for dear life and just kind of bunker in and hope they can get the 2-1 win. I mean, I know you're playing against the San Jose Earthquakes, and I know they're not very good going for on the attack. But even then, it feels really unlike like Sporting KC and unlike Peter Vermees to see a team just kind of hang on for dear life at home, even against a lowly opposition. But still, it worked out because in the end, Sporting KC win 2-1 in this one, and the shots in this one, again, only 5 shots in this whole game for Sporting KC compared to 13 that the Quakes had. 6 shots on goal for the free that Sporting KC had. 4 shots off target for the 2 that Sporting KC had. 3 shots that was blocked for the none that Sporting KC had. And the possession was actually dead even at 50%, which I didn't believe that because I thought the Quakes at time had more of the possession. But yeah, nevertheless, again, this is just one of those games where the team that's shown the more clinical finish win the game, and that of course is Sporting KC. And I know that obviously Sporting KC fans are going to be very happy that they don't have to wait 10 games into the season for their first win. But I would say that there is a little bit concern. The fact that they didn't really look good in this game, and they're playing against literally one of the worst team in the league. But as the old saying goes, a win is a win. They get a massive 3 points, and for the Quakes, again, when a team is bad, when they are the better team and they had more of the opportunity, and they're still on the losing end. But hopefully, in terms of just kind of morale booster way, maybe they can carry this momentum heading into the next game against Seattle. Because again, I thought they played well in this game. I really did, and I think they were very unlucky not to get a point out of this game. But we'll see whether or not if they can carry that into the next game. Because if they can do that heading into the next game against Seattle, and especially against a Sounders team that also has been struggling early in the season, that first win could come pretty soon. Even though the Quakes have now dropped 0-4 to start the season and become one of the 2 team to still yet to register a single point this season. That being said, moving on into the next match, and now talk about my other team that somehow is at the top of the Western Conference. So if you would have told me that was the case in the beginning of the season, I would just laugh at you that Minnesota United would be at the top of the Western Conference after 4 games. But once again, give credit to what Cam Knowles and especially new boss Eric Ramsey has done in this game. And I had a feeling that in this game, this was one of the few time where I felt confident that Minnesota can win, even when they're facing against a pretty good team that is LAFC, because I knew the new head coach boost was going to be in. And while I will say that the new head coach boost didn't really get into the attack, because I thought the attack at times were a little sluggish for this Minnesota team, it definitely got to the midfield and defense, because man, this was one of the best defensive display and one of the best midfield performance I've seen Minnesota have played in a very long time. Now, in the first half, though, I said that they were very good on the defensive front, and they almost made a mistake in the 6th minute when Bawanga missed an empty net from close range. If this was Bawanga last season, that's gone into the back of net 10 out of time. But as it is the case with LAFC, as I mentioned, they might have got off to a sluggish start to the season, and it felt like they're now back to where they were almost in the latter part of the season, where they had a long dry spell without scoring goals and had problems in terms of it. And a lot of that also is Bawanga, their main catalyst in terms of goal scoring, is not scoring. And it's no surprise that he's hasn't scored a single goal so far this season, and he's been on a rough patch. But yeah, that's one that he would absolutely want to have back, and one that I think Dane Sinclair clearly got away with it, because inexplicably he came off his line there. I don't know why he decided to do that. It was way too easy for Bawanga to round the keeper. And again, if this was an informed Denise Bawanga, that's in the back of net 10 out of 10 time. In the 15th minute, Oliveira would puts it over the bar, as I thought LAFC had the best chance so far in this game. But then in the 16th minute, on the first shot of the game for Minnesota, they score. It's Robin Lod that scores the opening goal for Minnesota, and this came off of a set piece, and it was not great set piece defending from LAFC, especially on Jesus Morelo part where he basically just headed right back into the path of Robin Lod, and you cannot do that. Like especially with how hot Robin Lod has been, and it's no surprise that this Loons team has been so much better ever since Robin Lod came back from that season-ending injury last year. And yeah, just like that, Minnesota was leading 1-0 in this game, and then they started to drop their lines a little bit and allow LAFC to dictate the play. Now, I have no problem with that because I know LAFC is a team that is very good in terms of transition, and we're starting seeing teams that have started to figure out LAFC a little bit, where they just give them, if you give them the ball, most of the time they won't really be able to break you down. They're a team that is more threatening on the transition. And again, a lot of that also is the fact that this team looked very incomplete, and they just don't really have a playmaker on this team that can really break down low blocks like what we've seen with the previous LAFC team. So yeah, this was a good strategy by Eric Ramsey to just kind of start dropping their lines and just saying, hey, let's see if you can break us down. And as a result, it kind of become a bit of a cagey game because the shots were only 4-2, 32 minutes into the game, as it's been a cagey affair. But in the 43rd minute, Boxall almost scored an own goal here when the ball was coming in on a set piece. But we do head to halftime with Minnesota leading 1-0 in this game. In the second half, Oliveira would pose it wide from close range as the flag went up because, Oliveira just are not allowed to score a goal for LAFC right now. But I thought it was a strong start for LAFC. They were looking to try to get the equalizer, and this is where I was thinking, how long will Eric Ramsey decide to bring on Reynoso? So obviously coming into this game, there was a discussion whether or not if Reynoso will get the start. He didn't get a start in this game. He actually came off the bench, and I think it's the right call because as much as it's very tempting to put Reynoso into the starting 11, I think it's the right call for him to decide to bring Reynoso off the bench because Reynoso haven't played a single minute in preseason and he must be very rusty. So to thrust him right into the starting 11 is definitely not going to help factor. And I also would like to say that I'm very interesting to see how will Eric Ramsey get the best of Reynoso because with the way that the system that Minnesota has been running in these first couple of games, I think it's no surprise that this team has done well even without Reynoso because it feels like the system that they're running is now less dependent on Reynoso. And I like the pressing system that Cam Knows have put in. In some extent, Eric Ramsey did try to do that a little bit, though I think it wasn't as extreme as what we saw in the last game against Orlando City. But the problem with the pressing system, I will say, that Minnesota will have is that Reynoso is not known to be more of a guy that likes to press and get back on the defensive front. So that's going to be something that I think Eric Ramsey is going to have to figure out where, is he going to bring the best out of Reynoso? And that for a long time, this team has been heavily rely on a system where Reynoso is basically the star. And he's the guy that runs the show, and he's the guy that will always have the ball and dictate how the Loons attack. Well, now that they're kind of moving away from this system with the way that the new regime has come, I'm interested to see what part Reynoso does play in this because I still think he should play a big role in this team because he's kind of the star number 10 of this team. But I'm just very curious of how it's going to work, especially this new system doesn't really fit what Reynoso loved to do when he was under Adrian Heath. But in the 53rd minute, Dane Sinclair would deny Bogusz from close range before Dotson would hit one right to Lloris in the 55th minute. We then go for a period where not much really happened for both teams, as both of these teams were kind of looking flat on the attack. And by the way, speaking of Reynoso, he did came on in the 60th minute with some warm appreciation from the Loons fan. Oliveira then hits one right to Dane Sinclair because Oliveira is not allowed to score a goal. There was a shout for a penalty for Minnesota not giving, and then Martinez puts it over the bar after a bad giveaway from the Loons. Yeah, that's something you cannot do against LAFC, and I just kind of had a feeling that Minnesota need this second goal because this is a team that is not known in terms of keeping clean sheets. Boxall would then blast it way high from long range, but then in the 88th minute, this pretty much confirmed the first win for Eric Ramsey as Longwane has scored once again in this one, the second consecutive game that he scored the final goal of the game as he scored here to make it 2-0 in favor of Minnesota, though he can thank the LAFC backline for this because this was an absolute gift. It was a terrible back pass where this entire LAFC team just kind of switched off and it just played it right into the path of Longwane, who's in on goal there. And, Lawane, after getting that goal in the last game, it's not a big surprise that he's confident to be back like what we saw last season, where he was a goal scoring machine. And then on the other end, it looked like Bawanga did finally score his first goal of the season. Problem was the goal was disallowed for offside, and it was a very late call. Like they took a couple of seconds before they finally raised the flag there. I thought that was gonna be counted, but obviously it did not. And on the replay, pretty clear that it was not gonna count because of on the attacking sequence it was an offside on the play. But nevertheless, Minnesota, they get the 2-0 win in this game, and like I said, top of the Western Conference, and not just top of the Western Conference, but top of the Western Conference all by itself, and the only team in the Western Conference to have double-digit point 4 games into the season. The shots in this one, 9 shots apiece for both of these teams. 3 shots on goal for the 2 that LAFC had. 4 shots off target for the 2 that Minnesota has. 4 shots on blocked for the 2 that LAFC had. And possession-wise, 52% possession compared to 48% possession that Minnesota has in this game. And, for LAFC, yeah, this is now 3 games in a row. They have not scored a goal. And this has started to become what I thought was going to be what I fear with LAFC, and certainly what LAFC fans were fearing about this team, of how they kind of look like the NYCFC of last year, where NYCFC last year had a bit of an incomplete squad coming into the season. They were really struggling coming out of the gate. We're starting to see the same thing once again. So there's no doubt that they're gonna definitely looking to boost her up, especially with the way that there's now rumors that Olivier Giroud could potentially come to LAFC as soon as the summer. But obviously they can't wait for the summer. They're looking to desperately need some reinforcement, because when you look at the squad at LAFC, I think they have like one of the fittest squad in the league. Like basically, they didn't even fill out their bench in this game, which just kind of shows you how desperate they need reinforcement heading into the beginning of this season. With that being said, moving on into the next game, we got Nashville versus Charlotte FC. So Nashville, of course, on the winning side of this one, and it's no surprise that when they started to get some of their starter back in this in these last couple of games, they're started winning again. So early on, Willis would deny Anjuman, as that was the game first shot in the 13th minute. And just like this game, this was not really the most entertaining game to watch. But it's okay, because that's kind of suit Nashville style. They like to make a game that doesn't seem to be the most entertaining, but they like to grind out resort and put in a defensive masterpiece that Gary Smith knows to do. But yeah, 20 minutes into this game, it's been a kind of a snooze fest. Only one shot in this game, and that was the shot that Ajuman has in the 13th minute. In the 24th minute, we saw the second shot of the game and the first shot for Nashville, as Muirwood hits it wide from close range. Boyd then puts it high from long range in the 25th minute. Then on the game's fourth shot, it went into the back of the net. It's Sam Surridge scoring from Washington to make it 1-0 in favor of Nashville. What a header this was from Sam Surridge. The fact that, despite the fact that he was off balance and on his back foot, the fact that he still were able to generate enough power to put that in. This is definitely good news for Nashville SC, because they desperately need Sam Surridge to get going and be that number 9 that they've been missing for the past couple of seasons. And with the way that he's been able to score goals like that, this is definitely good news for this Nashville SC team. And what else is also good news is them getting a 2-0 lead just 6 minutes later, as Alex Mule would score from Shaq Moore to make it 2-1 or 2-0 in favor of Charlotte. It would eventually become 2-1, but yeah, that was almost kind of like a carbon copy of the last goal. It was a ball swinging into the box. Alex Mule was able to meet that ball. It was also a great cross there from Shaq Moore as well. And just like that, Nashville find themselves 2-0 up. But like I said, it would eventually become 2-1, as Jageret would score his first career MLS goal from Urunen to make it 2-1 in this game, and at least give Charlotte a little momentum heading into the locker room. And we head to halftime with the score being 2-1 in favor of Nashville. In the second half, Surridge did look to try to get his second, but he missed high there before Willis denied Uren from the free kick. Mule then puts it wide from close in the 60th minute. I thought it started to become a little bit end to end, and I thought that whoever can grab this next goal could have a big outcome of this game. Arfield did try to do so, but he puts it high on the free kick, and then Anjiman would hit one right to Willis in the 78th minute. And really, as the time winds down, Nashville started to go with their usual low block defending that we've seen Gary Smith team usually do, which, yeah, most of the time that's not great news for opposition, because good luck trying to break down this Nashville team when they decide to go on an intense low block. Though Ajiman did try to do so, but he missed it wide on the header in the 85th minute. And yeah, in the end, Nashville hold on to win 2-1 in this game. As the shots in this one, there was not a lot of shots, only 8 shots compared to 9 that Charlotte has. 2 shots on goal for the 3 that Charlotte has. Both team had 3 shots off target. 2 shots that was blocked for the 1 that Charlotte has. And possession-wise, 55% possession compared to 45% possession as Charlotte has in this game. So, like I said, for Nashville, good result from them at home. But for Charlotte, obviously, I don't think they played bad in this game. They just weren't more clinical in this one, and they don't get anything out of this game as a result. With that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the last 3 games to finish off the review of match week number 4. Now, moving on into the crazy game of this week, and I know the Montreal versus Chicago game was crazy, but that's crazy and also kind of a fail Mary kind of type of game because all the bad refereeing decision. You can't say anything about this game though, because this felt like it was a classic MLS After Dark kind of game. And just let you know, while I was watching this game, I was also starting to write the notes on the board in terms of part 1 of the review. And I gotta say, I had a really tough time in terms of trying to watch this game and also doing the notes at the same time, because there were at times where I kind of just stopped doing the notes on the board and started watching this game for a bit because it was just so entertaining between the Galaxy and St. Louis. And the fireworks started just 2 minutes into this game. As 2 minutes in, the Galaxy takes the lead. It's Joveljic scoring from Aldi to make it 1-0 in favor of the Galaxy. That's the 4th straight game that Dejan Joveljic has scored. And it's safe to say that I think Joveljic has finally able to adapt to the role that, Joveljic is a guy that I know he's a goal scorer. Uh, that's mostly when he came off the bench. One of the big issue with Joveljic is that he doesn't really replicate that when he's in the starting 11. And sometimes you see guys do that. You see guys maybe feel more comfortable coming off the bench scoring compared to making an lasting impact throughout the game. But this season it's been different. It feels like finally he's been able to carry that even into his starting 11 form, and just like that, he made it 1-0 in this game. Though I will argue that Dejan Joveljic probably should have had a hat trick in this game, and part of that because of the post, and also a guy named Roman Berkey, who, despite the fact that I know he gave up 3 goals in this game, probably stole a point for St. Louis in this one. And by the way, that was also the first shot of the game to give the Galaxy a 1-0 lead, and then 6 minutes later, Berkey would absolutely romp for goodness on it, a lightning counter attack. I mean, the Galaxy was just so lethal on the transition, and that's been kind of what made them very lethal this season. They've been very dangerous on the transition this year, but there was no doubt that they have shot out of the cannon coming out of the gate as they were pushing for the opener. The post would then deny Puig on the curler, but unfortunately it falls right into Joveljic, or I would say, fortunately, it fall right to Joveljic, but unfortunately, he missed that. In fact, he hits that one onto the post, and that's one that Joveljic would have nightmares about. And it won't be the only time I'll say Joveljic have nightmares about his a missed chance, because he had a couple of missed chances that he would definitely like to have back. But this one probably is the most because, yeah, that was an empty net for Joveljic to score. He absolutely should have put this one into the back of the net. But St. Louis must be kissing the post early on, because the post bailed them out 2 times in this one, and they're gonna get ready to kiss that post again later on, because after Jackson hits it badly that end up to be a throw in, Vasilev would then flash one high from the front post in the 26th minute, and I thought St. Louis started to get into this game. I mean, after they weathered the early storm that the Galaxy have put, they started to get into this game, looking to get the equalizer, and they do get it. In the 27th minute, it's Thomas Ostrak, the one that gets the equalizer for St. Louis, and this feels like it was a classic St. Louis City goal. I mean, they're a team that knows to press and able to caught their opponent making defensive mistake. And when you have a Galaxy backline that are prone to make some defensive mistake at times, yeah, it was no surprise that St. Louis capitalized. This was Ricky Puig committing a WTF turnover and just got caught in the St. Louis press. Ostrak was on the other way, in on goal there, and he buries it to tie the game up at 1 apiece. Klaus then hits it wide in the 28th minute, as all of a sudden the momentum was with St. Louis. The momentum was swinging back and forth in this game, which kind of just a precursor of why I said how this was just a crazy, crazy game. But they were pressing for the lead now. St. Louis with the momentum in their hand. Markanovic would then pulls it wide from long range. Before on the other end, Paintsel would struck the post in the near post. So again, St. Louis probably kissing that post for the third time because that's the third time that the Galaxy got denied by the post in this half alone. On the other end, Jackson would pulls it wide on the free kick, and we head to halftime with the score tied up at one apiece. In the second half, Klaus would then clip the post in the near post, so that's the fourth time in this game that the post has been hit. But I thought it was a promising start for St. Louis as they were looking for the opening goal. But in the 51st minute, the Galaxy retakes the lead. It's Joseph Paintsill. He scored from Delgado to make it 2-1 in favor of the Galaxy. It came off of a lightning counter attack, and in fact, there was a couple of times in this game where it was pretty easy for the Galaxy to just bring the ball to Joseph Paintsill. I mean, Paintsill must be one of the fastest player in the league because the way that he's able to sprint down the flank and just kind of outrun everybody. I mean, that is a very scary proposition to try to deal with him for the rest of the season. And that, yeah, this just came off of a lightning counterattack that St. Louis got caught. And then in the 55th minute, Berkey would rob Jovic from point blank. And guess what? It all started from the counterattack as well. They would keep playing that ball to the right to Joseph Paintsill, finding tons of space, and then he basically playing to Jovic, and it looked like Jovic had a tap in, but Berkey had other ideas. And again, St. Louis, I thought they were just getting killed on the transition up to this point. Berkey then denied Jovic from close range, and this is where I said Jovic must have a nightmare about Berkey and in goal. I mean, I know he scored in this one 2 minutes in, but man, he could have easily had a hat trick if it wasn't for the pulse and Roman Berkey just again standing on his head as what we have seen him do time and time again last season for St. Louis. McCarthy then denied Klaus from close range because John McCarthy doesn't want to be left behind in terms of the goalkeeping show that we saw. And this is where I wrote what is defending because it could become a track meet. It was just not existent whatsoever. And in the 60th minute, we get the equalizer for St. Louis as Joachim Nelson would score from a Deneret to make it 2-2 in this game. And it seems like Joachim Nelson channeled his Marcelo Balboa moment here. And for those of you wondering what that reference is, Marcelo Balboa once scored a legendary bicycle kick back in 2000. I think it was against the Columbus Crew on the row, and that's going to go down as one of the greatest bicycle kick ever, and probably the greatest bicycle kick that is scored by a defender. And while this one wasn't as elite as what we see with Marcelo Balboa did back in 2000, it was still a great overhead head kick there from Joachim Nelson. And yeah, just like that, it was all tied up at two apiece, and you knew I had to write MLS After Dark is in full force because as wacky as this game is, when a center back is able to score an overhead kick, you know that the MLS After Dark juice has kicked in full gear in this game. And then the ref, of course, was told he sucked because that's a thing because of the way how bad replacement referees are, and this of course was done after Pooch was booked. This also won't be the last time that he was told that he really sucked in this game by the Galaxy faithful. But in the 72nd minute, Berkey would rob Cáceres on a free header. Again, those set piece defending, St. Louis was really having a lot of problem in this game as well, and that's kind of weird because this team was not really bad in terms of defending set piece. In fact, this was actually one of their strengths last season, and they were having a lot of problem in this game. There was a shout for a penalty for the Galaxy not given in the 73rd minute, and I thought the Galaxy were feeling it again. Again, now the momentum switched right back to the Galaxy. But in the 88th minute, St. Louis looked like they stole this game as Kyle Hebert would score from a Danarin to make it 3-2 in this game. It was completely against the run of play because it looked like more and more the Galaxy was going to get the lead. In the 90th minute, Berkey would deny Peck in the near post, and it looked like maybe St. Louis was going to steal this one, and especially Roman Berkey making some big save. Looked like he was going to steal this one for St. Louis, but as we know, this is MLS After Dark, and you know that in MLS After Dark game, there's always going to be late drama, and there has to guarantee to be a stoppage time goal, and there was. In the 5th minute stoppage time, it's Yoshida scoring from Brugman to make it 3-3 in this game, so this was also another game where it's the game of defender scoring. I mean, the last 3 goals were all scored by defender, and you know how I mentioned how St. Louis was having problem in terms of defending set piece? Well, here we go. This came off of a set piece, the ball coming in, Yoshida was left unmarked here. So yeah, that tied the game up at 3 apiece. On the other end, Adanarin would drive it way high from close range, and then he actually was in on goal in the 8th minute of stoppage time, but Cáceres was having none of it. I mean, he absolutely brought him down with force, and that's kind of saying it lightly because he kind of commits a bit of a reckless challenge on Adanarin. And yeah, that of course is a straight red card. Originally, I thought maybe it was a did not go for opportunity, but the more I look at it, I think it was more because of the latter part of a reckless challenge or on the Danarin that basically brought out the red card in this game. But nevertheless, in a wild game that we've seen in Carson, it ends in a free draw in this game between the Galaxy and St. Louis. As the shots in this game, there was a ton of shots, 17 shots compared to 19 that St. Louis had, 4 shots on goal compared to 9 that the Galaxy had. The Galaxy actually had no shots off target compared to 8 that St. Louis had. 5 shots that was blocked compared to 7 that St. Louis had, and possession-wise, 62% possession compared to 38% possession that St. Louis has in this game. Again, just a crazy game, and I would not mind to see both of these teams face off against each other, or even in the playoffs too, because this is kind of the game that makes me love MLS so much, and especially when MLS After Dark kicks in, you better you better glue to the TV and just keep an eye on this because you know there's going to be some crazy things that's going to happen in this in an MLS After Dark kind of game. With that being said, moving on into the next game. Now we're going to talk about the Sunday game, and we start off with New England versus FC Cincinnati. So both of these teams, of course, coming off of CONCACAF Champions Cup duty, with one of the team getting the win and one of the team coming off of a loss. Well, it turns out it's the team that coming off of the loss in Mexico that gets the win over the team that got a win in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Now, early on, Rabbits would denying Santos on an overhead kick before Kubo would miss wide from long range, as I thought Cincinnati was on the front foot there. In the 14 minutes, Santano would deny Ismail from close range before he denied Veroni from close, and all of a sudden, the momentum swing right back to New England. So early on, at least, it kind of had a little taste of this game as well, where the momentum was kind of swinging back and forth. Sean Kalai then hits it right to Santano before he was denied by the post in the 33rd minute in the near post, that is. Pinto would then puts it high from close range before Valenzuela puts it high from long range in the 43rd minute, and we head to halftime, scoreless between both of these teams. Now, in the second half, keep in mind, Pat Nolan kind of put a relatively weak squad coming into this game. It was kind of a B squad that Cincinnati has had, but knowing that he felt like there was a chance that they could get all 3 points, he decided to bring in the cavalry. Both Acosta and Oriano was something off the bench in this one. And in fact, it looked like it made an instant impact because in the 46th minute, literally 1 minute after Oriano came on, he would put the ball into the back of net. Problem was, the goal was disallowed for offside, and this was a really, really late call. I mean, I'm saying really not as an exaggeration because it took 15 seconds after the ball went into the back of the net, and there was already celebration from Cincinnati before they realized the flag came out, or when the flag came up. That is just an extremely late call, and this is also why all these replacement referees have kind of drive a lot of people crazy, and certainly drive these player crazy. I mean, I wouldn't blame the Cincinnati player being absolutely fuming about that because well, yes, in the end, it was the correct decision. It shouldn't take 15 seconds after the goal went to the back of net to you finally raise the flag. Like you're basically taught to basically raise the flag after the goal, of course, went in if there's a potential offside at the end of the play because they can always look back to VAR on that. But the fact that they wait 15 seconds of that was just absolutely absurd. But in the 50th minute, Ravis would deny Santos from close range. But then in the 52nd minute, Cincinnati eventually does get the opener. It's Yaya Kubo scoring from Acosta to make it 1-0 in favor of Cincinnati. Originally, it looked like Ravis was able to save this one off the line, and he was able to kind of redeem himself because he actually missed the punch when this cross comes into the box. But unfortunately, it was not meant to be. He did not save this one off the line. It was pretty clear that there was an angle. The ball crossed the line. So yeah, it turns out to be a bit of a mistake there from Henrik Ravis. Not the first time we have said about this. Again, it was always hard for Henrik Ravis to replicate what Georgie Petrovic and Matt Turner has done, and there's no doubt that he's definitely under a little fire, at least in these first couple of games, because he has definitely not put up the up even anywhere close to the standard as the previous two New England goalkeeper that I mentioned. And then 2 minutes later, Cincinnati would get the second goal as Lucho Acosta would score here on the free kick to make it 2-0 for Cincinnati. And while it was a great free kick from Lucho Acosta, I was surprised that New England did not put a man on the ground as part of the wall. This is why that nowadays you see a lot of teams put a man below the wall there or lying down on the ground because it's basically prevent those low driving ball. And I think Lucho Acosta probably saw that and say, hey, they didn't put a man on the ground, so I'm just gonna drive this low and hoping the wall jumped so it sneaked by everybody. Well, the wall did jump and it ends up into the back of the net. So while it was a great free kick, it was a terrible wall set up there for New England. Sean Kalai then looked to respond in the 56 minutes, but he missed wide there. But in the 62nd minute, Baroni would respond as he scored here to make it 2-1 in favor of Cincinnati. It came off of a bad back pass there for Cincinnati. So, yeah, that was a little fortunate there for New England. But nevertheless, Giacomo Baroni scoring again for the second game in a row. I told you that, after he scored that goal in the last game and finally end his curse, it feels like now he's starting to score again for this New England side. In the 65th minute, Oriano would then puts it high from close range before Bupenza would hits the side netting as Cincinnati was looking to try to get that second two-goal lead back. Though on the other end, Salentano would deny Romney after just another bad turnover for Cincinnati. Again, this back line for Cincinnati was very shaky in this game, and I would argue Roman Salentano, this was probably the best game that he played this season because he really bailed out this bad back line at time. But I also wrote that Cincinnati back line is trying to give away free points in this one with these bad turnover. Shankalai then was in on goal there, and he was try to chip it over Salatano, but unfortunately he struck the post, and then Salatano would deny Harks from close range. And again, the refs, they were pounding on the door. The question is, can they beat Salatano, who he looked like he was going to try to steal this one and trying to carry this Cincinnati team, and especially this bad back line from Cincinnati, and he did exactly that. As in the end, Cincinnati is able to hold on to win 2-1 in this one. The shots in this one, 18 shots for the 13 that Cincinnati has, 5 shots on goal for the 7 that New England has, 4 shots off target for the 7 that Cincinnati has, 1 shot that was blocked for the 4 that New England has, and possession-wise, 58% possession compared to 42% possession that Cincinnati has in this game. So, yeah, big road win here for Cincinnati, especially a big bounce back win after losing to Rayados in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. But for New England, as I said about the Quakes, who also does not have a single point to their name, I don't think they play bad in this game, and I would say that this was probably the best game that New England has played this season. But just like I said about the Quakes as being the only other team to not register a point, when you're not having a good season, it's just not falling for you, and that's kind of the case for this New England team. Who again, the good news I will say at least for New England is that at least they have the CONCACAF Champions Cup to comfort them. Whereas if you're the Quakes, I mean, there's really not much to comfort about your team starting the season 0-4. But the bad news for New England is that they have to play Club America in the next game, and with the way how they've been playing lately in terms of league form, they better hope that CONCACAF Champions Cup form can carry into the next one because the league form is starting to leak into the CONCACAF Champions Cup form. Oh boy, I would say we're probably going to see a beatdown in that game between New England and Club America, especially down in Mexico, similar to what we saw with Pachuca against the Union. But moving on into the last game on this board is Atlanta and Orlando City. So this was a game where, believe it or not, it was kind of relatively even, but in the end, one team showed their clinical finishing, and that was the difference in this game. Early on, Guzan would deny Muriel from close range before Santos had a cross shot that almost went into the back of the net, but it hits the top part of the post. And I thought it was a promising start for Orlando as they were looking to try to get the opening goal, but instead, in the ninth minute, Atlanta would take the lead. It's Lobjanidze scoring from Yakimakis to make it 1-0 in favor of Atlanta. It was kind of against the run of play, and it came off the transition again, which that's kind of what Atlanta did in this game. They were trying to hit Orlando on the transition, and boy, did they did well in this game. Orlando had a lot of issue in terms of dealing with transitional play from Atlanta in this game. Guzan would then deny Ojeda as Orlando was looked to respond, and Orlando again has most of the possession, but as it is the case for this season, they just look like they don't know what to do with the ball and look very lackluster in the final third. I mean, really, but besides the game against Minnesota United, where they They look really well on the final third. They have been really lackluster on the attacking end, and really on the other hand, like I said, they just have no answer in terms of dealing with the lethal counterattack that Atlanta, of course, are dealing with. And in some way, they kind of play right into the hands of Atlanta, knowing that Atlanta is just going to sit back, and as soon as they win the ball, they immediately go on the counter, and Orlando just have no answer in terms of dealing with it. Yakimakis then puts it wide from long range before Galese would tip Williams' header over from the corner, and then Guzan would deny Muriel from close range in the 42nd minute, and then Galese would absolutely rob Gregson and Silver here. First, it was him robbing Gregson on a free header, and somehow, in some way, Silver had a follow up there, and I don't know how Galese was able to get himself back on his feet to basically save that one. But yeah, that just kind of shows you that El Pupo, even though he hasn't had a good season in this year, he still has been able to make that incredible save, and that's exactly what we see in this one. And I also wrote that besides the transitional problem that Orlando was having, they also had no answer in terms of dealing with pieces, and they were not doing a good job in terms of defending set pieces up to this point. In the first minute of stoppage time, we did see Muriel puts it uh, over the bar from the free kick, but we do head to halftime with Atlanta leading 1-0. In the second half, Yakimakis would hit it right to Guzan, or actually not to Guzan, but to Galese there. He obviously didn't hit the shot off to his own goalkeeper. But Atlanta, I thought, had most of the control of this game, and they were looking to try to get another. Though in the 62nd minute, Galese would deny Silver, but it actually was Recycle, and Amada had a chance from long range, but unfortunately he missed this one badly. In fact, he missed it so badly it pretty much puts it into the supporter section from long range. But then in the 70th minute, Atlanta would kill this game off, and who else but Giorgio Yakimakis? I mean, you know when you're hot when you're able to score long range goal like what Yakimakis did here, as he scored here from Lennon to make it 2-0 in favor of Atlanta. Definitely in contention for a goal of the week again. But in 83rd minute, Ladero would puts it over from long range, and that was kind of it. As in the end, there was really not much that happened in the remaining of the game, as both of these teams kind of saw their fate of how this game was turned out. And in the end, it ends in a 2-0 win for Atlanta. Shots in this one: 13 shots compared to 11 that Orlando has, 3 shots on goal compared to 6 that Atlanta has, 4 shots off target compared to 6 that Orlando has, 2 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that Atlanta has, and possession-wise, 55% possession compared to the 45% possession that Atlanta has in this game. So while Atlanta continue their strong start to the season, especially at home, and have that and starting to look like the old Atlanta that we know of when they're playing at home, the struggle continue for Oscar Pereira Orlando City side. I mean, still without a win so far in this season, and that it just feels like they're still having a lot of issue in terms of the attack. Kind of very similar to last season where they got off to a slow start to the season because they couldn't figure out the situation on the attack. They're going to have to hope that they'll eventually figure out as the season goes along, just like they did last year. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of the recap of the last 6 games from match week number 4. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this review. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.